Hi everyone, welcome back to the Somewhat Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Stevens. Today's episode is going to be all about how to be your biggest cheerleader because I feel like, especially for me recently, I have had to learn how to do that on my own, which we'll get into. But before we start, let's talk about our thrives and dives for the week. Starting with my thrive, I have to share this because this is like a moment that my 13-year-old self would be so proud of and like wouldn't believe me if I told her it actually happened. I got invited to and went to a Pura Vida event. If you're not sure what Pura Vida is, it's basically like a jewelry brand, and I literally grew up loving this brand, you guys. I was obsessed. You probably know what I'm talking about if you've ever seen like the wave ring or like the yarn colorful bracelets that had like wax on them. They were always in like gift shops, at least for me when I would visit like California or Florida, and I would always want to get these pieces. I've been obsessed with the brand forever. And so when I got the invite for an event for their new collection, I was ecstatic. I was so excited, and I got to bring one of my friends, which was so fun, and it was at a super cute little restaurant in Scottsdale, Arizona. And yeah, it was just such a fun experience. There was so many like other amazing content creators there. And they had like a charm bar where we got to make our own like charm bracelets and necklaces. They even had like tarot card readings, which was really cool. And then obviously like really good food and gifts. I still cannot believe that I get invited to these types of things. It's like really a pinch me moment every single time that it happens because I have dreamed of doing things like this since I was like 13. So that was definitely the thrive for my week. My dive for the week has to be the whole TikTok fiasco. Okay, I feel like I have been in such a toxic relationship, the most toxic relationship I have ever been in. I have gone through so many ups and downs and crash outs over the last few days, especially yesterday. Today is Sunday when I'm recording this. Last night it went dark and we weren't able to use it. A lot of people were freaking out, didn't know if it was going to come back or when it was going to come back, but it came back today. And so I definitely feel better that it's back. It was a very stressful, honestly, like week leading up to it. But yeah, and even CapCut stopped working as well because it's owned by the same people. And I use CapCut and have used CapCut for like the last 4 years to edit my videos. And so literally yesterday I had to like download a new editing app and try to get used to it. But when you're so used to like a certain editing app, it's really hard to just like switch things up. Okay, so now getting into the topic for today's episode, how to be your biggest cheerleader. And I mentioned before that this is something that I have kind of had to navigate a little bit more recently than usual. And I say that because I kind of recently have gotten out of a relationship. And I feel like whether it's a short or long-term relationship, you kind of get used to having that one person that you know you can go to seek for reassurance and just to kind of hype you up, cheer you on, you know, or at least that's how it should be. If you're in a relationship, your significant other should be that person for you that is cheering you on and, you know, reassuring you and doing all of the things. And so I got really used to that because me and my ex-partner, we were together for a long time, for years, since I was literally 16. It really opened my eyes into seeing that I was reliant on him for a lot of things, which I really don't like. I don't like to be reliant on anything or anybody but myself. And, you know, it was really scary leaving that relationship and having kind of dark days where I'm like, I don't have anybody to turn to just to like make me feel better. I have to do that for myself. And then that opened a whole other door and whole other journey of self-discovery and really learning more about myself and how to make myself happy without anybody else. And, you know, I think that is the foundation. You truly need that before you can make anything else work. I think in your 20s especially, it is so important to be your biggest cheerleader and your biggest supporter because there is so much self-doubt and confusion that happens in our 20s and beyond, of course. But I think especially in your 20s, it's just such a time of going through different seasons and trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And, there's going to be lots of ups and downs just trying to figure out life in general and growing up. And so I think it's crucial to know who you are and to be able to come back to yourself and know the things that will make you happy and how to cheer yourself on when nobody else will. And don't you worry, we're going to talk all about it today. We're going to get into how you can do that and what that looks like and all of the steps to get there. First of all, I kind of want to talk about the reality of self-doubt. And I just want to reassure you guys, because I've had to reassure myself many, many times that, there are people out there that seem super, super confident, and you might feel super, super confident. But I want you guys to remember that everybody struggles with self-doubt. It's kind of just a constant thing that we have to work on as humans. I mean, it's inevitable to happen, and I think over time you really can reframe your mindset to feel a little bit more less of that on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. But I do want to say that some of the most confident people have the most self-doubt. I know for me, in my short 21 years of life, I have felt so much self-doubt, whether it's about, what I'm doing in college or as a content creator and the type of content that I'm creating, and if I'm bringing value to my audience, or even with my friendships and my relationships, heck, even like with family. Like, you can experience self-doubt in so many different places. And I also don't want you guys to think like, oh, if I, am able to cut out self-doubt and just be super, super confident about every single thing that I'm doing. I don't think that self-confidence is about never doubting yourself. I think that it's about learning how to navigate those moments and have the tools to reframe your mindset and, change your perspective in certain areas and become more positive overall. And that leads me to my steps of becoming your biggest cheerleader. And number one is reframing your mindset. It is so much easier to think negative thoughts than positive ones. We really have to train our minds to be a more positive place. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of consistency, but reframing the way that you talk to yourself really does make all the difference in the world, especially with self-doubt. An example of this might look like saying, I'm never good enough. And instead of saying that, you can tell yourself, I'm a work in progress, and that's okay. And I seriously want you, if you have a negative thought like that come into your mind, or if you say that out loud to somebody or just yourself, I want you to immediately change it and shift it to be a more positive phrase right after, whether it's in your head, whether you're journaling it, wherever it is. I promise you, if you keep doing this consistently and do it every single time that you have a negative thought and you replace it, it will make you more of a positive person. I remember when I first started doing this, because I had a lot of negative self-talk, especially when I was kind of starting my content creation journey, because I feel like putting yourself out there on social media and posting is always such a scary thing. And I feel like that alone involves a lot of self-doubt, especially because there's lots of numbers involved and just a lot of eyes on you. And I remember I really had to train and reframe the words that I was telling myself, especially in that time. And I know how unnatural and weird and kind of like lame it might sound at first and feel, but it really does make all the difference in the world. And now I feel like by default, I think way more positive about not just my content and, my job, but overall everything in life. Number 2 on my list is practicing self-affirmations. And girl, I struggled with this at first. When I first started integrating self-affirmations into my routine and into my life, I felt so silly. I felt so stupid. I'm not even gonna lie. So I know how it feels. And I think, when you first look at affirmations, you kind of view it as like, oh, saying words out loud to myself that I don't really believe, which it's kind of true, but you also don't have to just say them out loud. That is one way that you can do it, but you can also write down your affirmations. One of my favorite things to do is like write down an affirmation on a sticky note and then put it somewhere that you're going to see every single day, preferably like right in the morning. Say like your bathroom mirror or on your fridge or something like that. And then one of my other favorite tools to use is actually a playlist that I found on Spotify that I'll link down in the show notes for you guys so that you can, listen to it. But it basically has like a ton of different, basically, I don't know, like songs, I guess, where it's just this lady saying affirmations, and there's different like categories, like whether it's like positive affirmations or like grateful affirmations or like wealthy, and like abundance affirmations, whatever you feel like you need on the day. And you can either repeat them after she says them or you can just listen to them. I feel like I love turning that on right in the morning and just kind of like feeding my mind with like positivity and like positive words. It really does start off your day in such a positive note. Number 3 is to celebrate the small wins. I think that this is so important, especially when you are embarking on a new journey and there's a lot of self-doubt in the picture. I think we tend to really celebrate and focus on the big goal and the big achievements, and we celebrate those. But in reality, there was a lot of little tiny achievements and small wins that we had to make along the way to ultimately get to that big overall goal and achievement. And so I think it's really important to celebrate those small wins to make the journey a lot more fun and positive. And I think that that really helps overall with self-doubt. A small win for me, even just this last week recently, was having meal prepped. And I saw the effect of how much this helped me throughout last week. I meal prepped on the Sunday before this last week. And I felt like that was such a win for me because I had such a busy week, yet I had taken time on my Sunday to meal prep all of this healthy food to have throughout the week because I knew I was going to be busy. And ultimately, that made me have a very good week of nutritious food to help me stay fueled when I was super busy and didn't have time to cook. If I didn't have all of that food meal prepped, I probably would have gone out to eat majority of the time, which probably would have resulted in me feeling kind of shitty and like not my best self. So for me, last week, the big overall achievement was getting all of the things done that I did. But one of the small wins that I made to get to that goal was meal prepping and having those meals ready so that I could show up as my best self to get everything done. And when I say celebrate the small wins, I'm not saying like go out and have dinner every single time that you have some type of win or something, but at least acknowledge it and give yourself a pat on the back and just reflect on that for a second. Don't just like, finish something and, it's a small win and then you just push it to the side and you're like, okay, what's next? Number 4 is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and it is self-care. Just overall taking care of yourself, because I'm a strong believer that self-care builds so much confidence, and without it, you aren't able to show up as your best self. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and you aren't giving yourself love, how are you supposed to go and give anything else love? And self-care goes into so many different categories. It goes into obviously the physical, whether it's like an everything shower and a face mask and kind of like a whole pamper day, but it also goes into your space. Are you cleaning? Is your space organized and put together so that you can have a clear mind, because a clear space equals a clear mind? Are you moving your body? Are you getting your steps in? Are you getting fresh air? Are you going to your workouts so that you can have more energy and clear your head and become stronger throughout your day and more motivated? And it's also about your mind. Are you, scrolling, or are you reading and taking time learning new things and journaling and reflecting your thoughts throughout the day? And I think it's also about like making time for the things that maybe you aren't working towards, like hobbies or spending time with your friends and prioritizing, just living life and making memories and having fun. Last one on my list is to take bold but imperfect action. I think that one way to really build up your confidence is to go out of your comfort zone. And I've seen this in so many areas of my life, probably the biggest one being me moving out at freshly 18 and moving states and going to college out of state and moving into my own apartment and living on my own. I think that was a huge step for me that made me grow so much and made me so much more confident, like genuinely so much more confident. But I mean, that's like the biggest one. There's so many other little things that I've done in my life that have pushed me out of my comfort zone and may be very scary, but have built so much self-confidence and really lessened the self-doubt in my life because I have ultimately shown up for myself and proven to myself that I can do hard things. Another huge way that this has shown up in my life is my job and just posting online and even starting this podcast. This podcast especially, I felt kind of very nervous for the first time to ever release something and post something. I have been so used to posting just on, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube because I've been doing it forever. But this podcast was something that I was a little nervous about doing because it's just showing such a more vulnerable side to me and really opening up my thoughts and my brain and who I am to anybody. And that's a scary thought, but it pushed me out of my comfort zone to learn and to become more confident in what I'm saying. And ultimately, it has lessened my self-doubt in knowing that I can try new things and be successful at it and figure it out. I know it's scary to go out of your comfort zone because it's the unknown, and unknown is always scary, but I feel like I can confidently say that every single time that I've gone out of my comfort zone, I've always been proud of myself afterwards or felt good about it. I don't think there's ever really been a time where I've gone out of my comfort zone and regretted it. Now I want to talk about a few actionable tips to hype yourself up because we need to be our biggest hype person in our life. Hype man, hype woman, hype whoever. We need to be that for ourselves in 2025. I am such a type A person, I will admit. And so lists are very prevalent in my life. I like to make lists for everything. And so I decided what not a better way to hype myself up than to make a hype list. I want you to go into your notes app and start a new note, and you're going to title it Hype List. And basically, you're going to jot down things that you love about yourself, or maybe compliments that you've received that you really like, or just overall things that you're proud of. And what you're going to do is anytime that you are feeling very low or you're feeling a lot of self-doubt creep into your life, you're going to refer back to this list to hype yourself up. I think being able to refer back to this list when you're down is an extremely effective way to build up your confidence again and just reassure yourself without having anybody else in the world do it. Being able to reassure yourself that you are that girl or you are that man, whoever is listening, okay? Another way that you can hype yourself up is to visualize your dream self, your future self that you ultimately want to be, that we all ultimately want to be and that we're working towards every single day. You can do this through vision boards, or one of my favorite ways to do this is actually using ChatGPT. You can literally go into ChatGPT and, tell it like the type of person that you want to be. You can be super, super specific. Like, what kind of car do you want? What type of, house are you living in? How do you feel? What job are you in? How much money are you making? What do you look like? How do you feel? What are the hobbies that you have? What type of friends do you have? Literally like every aspect of your life. And you can basically tell ChatGPT, like, based off of this life, build a morning, midday, and night routine from my future self. ChatGPT will literally write out your daily routine as your future self. And this makes it super, super easy to visualize what that person looks like. And I swear this makes your confidence go up so much because it's all the things that you want to do. But it kind of breaks it down and makes it a little bit more realistic and like attainable. You can even take it a step further by asking it, like, what are some things that I can do now on a daily basis to help me get to this, higher version of myself, future self. And it will give you things that you can do every single day, and it can describe why you should do these things. Like, you can really get so specific with ChatGPT. I remember when I did this the first time, I told it everything that I wanted, like how I see myself in the future and everything. And I asked it to write me out, like a day in the life as my future self. And it basically gave me like a page-long story, if you will, of my day. And I seriously like want to frame that because it really is like my ideal dream day. And being able to refer back to that and kind of visualize that builds a lot of self-confidence and makes you just have that extra kick of motivation when you need it most. My last actionable tip to hype yourself up is to surround yourself with positivity. And this obviously goes for the people that you have in your life, the friends that you surround yourself and spend time with, but it also has a big part to do with social media and the type of content that you consume. We make our social media feeds. We decide who we want to follow. So I think that if you are somebody that consumes a lot of social media like I am, which I'm sure a lot of us are, it is very, very crucial to follow people that uplift you and make you feel good about yourself and inspire you or teach you new things. It's very negative to have people on there that might make you feel shitty about yourself or just may not be the most positive, things that you're consuming and filling your brain with. Pinterest will forever and always be one of my favorite social media platforms because I think you can really curate it so much and really make it such a positive place. Like my Pinterest, I have spent so much time and work on that and like my boards. That's one of my favorite hobbies is to make Pinterest boards because you really can just curate your life and just make your visions come to life. That's another way that you can visualize your higher self is to make Pinterest boards. But I think, just if you need a break from social media and scrolling, go on Pinterest and make a positive Pinterest board. Now I want to talk just a little bit about dealing with setbacks because setbacks are bound to happen in our life. That's just like part of the process. Without them, we wouldn't learn much and we wouldn't be able to build our characters up as much as we do with them. Becoming the best version of yourself and building your dream life is going to be a lot easier when you accept the fact that self-doubt and failure is a part of the process. I want to share just a few ways that I handle setbacks with a little bit more compassion because if you can get to a place where you can handle your setbacks with compassion and being just a little bit more gentle with yourself, life is going to be a lot more easier. I've talked about it before, but journaling, really, you got to hop on the wave, okay? Journaling will be your best friend. I think being able to journal about your thoughts and your setbacks is something that has always helped me. And not only just from like a point of being able to empty my mind and kind of get the negativity out of my mind and on paper, but I have gone back into journals that I've written in the past and looked at what I've written, and I've seen times that I've written about setbacks that I've had or hard days or whatever it may be. And it's just so cool to look back at those moments because life gets so much better. Like life never stays constant, and that's a good thing. Like you're never going to be in one place forever. You're never going to be in that one negative mindset and headspace forever. Life is going to always be changing. And so it's really cool to be able to look back at those times maybe when you were really struggling or you really were in a setback with, a goal that you were trying to achieve, because 9 times out of 10, when you're looking back at that, you probably achieved that goal or you got through it, because you will get through it. You just have to be patient. I remember specifically a journal entry that I read one time. It was when I was trying to hit 10K on TikTok, and I was posting like 4 times a day, every single day in the summer. And I was just literally giving it my all. And, there was a point in time where I was like super stagnant, and I really was doubting myself. And I was like, I just don't know if I have what it takes. Like, I don't know if this is ever going to work. And I expressed that all in my journal prompts. And I looked back at that, like maybe a couple months later, and I had reached like 40K. I went from like 10K to 30 to 40K in just like a span of a few weeks. And it's just, it's a good reminder to remind yourself that, you really could just be at the breach of you making your goals happen. And so I think being able to, reflect on that is really, really cool. I think that this is helpful for anybody, but especially if you work in the content creation space or social media in general. I think it's really, really important when you are having a setback and kind of are in a low headspace, a negative headspace, to take time away from your phone. And this doesn't even have to be social media, honestly. This can just take time away from your phone, from answering anybody, and just kind of be with yourself and go and do something else that makes your brain happy. And, whether that's spending time with yourself, reading, or doing one of your favorite hobbies, or if it's spending time with friends that you feel supported and loved by, just being able to be present in real life is really, really important to help you feel grounded and just more in tune with yourself. And going off of spending time with people that love and support you, I think being able to turn to people, whether it's your family or friends, and kind of seek out a little bit of reassurance is really, really helpful when you're having setbacks and you're feeling self-doubt. Because, I know it's hard to kind of go to people sometimes and talk about how you're feeling, but it can be really helpful to go to somebody that you trust and know will give you good feedback. Or even if you just need to rant and you need somebody to listen, I think it's really, really helpful to talk to somebody and just have them reassure you that everything's going to be okay. Sometimes when we're in a headspace of self-doubt and, a low confidence phase, it's really hard to see what is actually going on. I remember so many times where I would be kind of like lost in my content, and I might feel like I have no idea what I'm posting. I feel like all of my videos are terrible. I feel like what I'm posting is like not valuable or interesting or whatever. And I remember going to like my dad, for example, and going to him with, how I was feeling. And from an outsider's perspective, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, these videos are amazing. Like, there's so many people commenting, talking about how they relate to you, or, how they love your video. And sometimes when you're in that headspace and kind of funk, you just don't see those things, and you don't see like what other people are seeing, because we really are so like self-absorbed. And, it's kind of just about like, even when you look at like confidence, I mean, us as ourselves see so many things, and critique ourselves in so many ways that literally nobody else does and nobody else would see. I mean, 9 times out of 10, when you have like a pimple that you feel like is huge on your face and you point it out to one of your friends, they're like, dude, I didn't even see that until you pointed it out. So yeah, I think being able to go to people to kind of get out of your own way and get out of your own head can be really, really helpful. And they can just kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit and reassure you that you are doing your best and that you are, putting your best self out there. For this week's thriving thought of the week, I wanted to give you guys an affirmation to take in with, this next week, especially if you're dealing with setbacks or just confidence in general. I think this affirmation can be really, really helpful for you guys to take in with you for this next week. The affirmation this week is, I am my own biggest cheerleader. I trust my journey, celebrate my process, and show up for myself every single day. You don't want to say that whole thing in one sentence or have that be your whole affirmation. You can literally break it up. You can say, I am my own biggest cheerleader. Or you can say, I trust my journey and celebrate my process. Or you can say, I show up for myself every single day. A challenge that I have for you guys this week to try for yourself to be your biggest cheerleader and to hype yourself up a little bit more is to pick one thing that can cheer yourself up, whether that's trying something new that you've been wanting to try for a while, or if it's writing down an affirmation on a sticky note and putting it on your mirror to see every single morning. Or if it's journaling about your small wins throughout the week, whether it's I got, my step count in, or I meal prepped, or I got to the gym today, or I woke up when I wanted to, or I finished a book, or literally whatever. I made my bed in the morning. Like, it could be the smallest things. Your relationship with yourself is not only going to be the longest relationship that you ever have in your life with anybody, it is also the one constant relationship that you will always have and that you can always count on and rely on. So why would you not want to absolutely love that relationship that you have with yourself and be able to be that person for yourself when nobody else can? Be able to hype yourself up, be able to pick yourself up and know yourself well enough to know the things that do cheer you up and do uplift you and do hype yourself up. I would absolutely love to know ways that you guys already hype yourself up and already cheer yourself on, or ways that you plan to in 2025. My DMs are literally always open, so let me know. Or if you just need any advice or anything at all, I'm literally always here for you guys. Thank you guys so much again for listening to me yap. We are 4 episodes in. Like, how did that happen? We're already a month into this podcast, you guys. That's absolutely insane, and I can't wait for all of the conversations and episodes and yapping to come. I will see you guys next week. Bye.